It's Brody from Brody's Garage, episode 12. I might get a little emotional here. So I got a pleasant surprise, and I got a package in the mail today from TCI. They sent my lower control arms, so I mounted those suckers. All right, so this message goes out to the people over at TCI. I'm looking at your instructions. It says to install the coilover shock with the threaded portion down at the bottom and the extended part at the top. Well, if you do it that way, if I take this shock and I put the threaded bulky end at the bottom, and you stick it down through the lower control arm, it bottoms out before the bolt hole can get through the hole there. I don't know if you can see this, but it's all the way down, and there's still another 1/8 of an inch to go to get that bolt through there. So the only way to get this shock to fit is to turn it upside down with the adjustment valve knob sticking out like this. That's the only way, because I've tried it the other way and the knob hits the metal there. The only way this shock fits is if you put this through there and get it down through there. And then you see the hole lines up right away. But then your adjustment valve knob is sticking right there where you can't really get to it to make an adjustment. I mean, it would have been totally logical to put it right there where you can just get to it, but the shock does not fit that way. So TCI, you got some work to do, or you got some explaining to do. I'm standing in front of the car, and it's about to go on the ground on 4 wheels for the very first time since I've had it. I have not let it down from the jack yet, preparing emotionally for this. And I've got my neighbor Garrett here with me from across the street. He just always stops by like at the perfect time.
For the good stuff.
Right when I'm about to kill myself, he stops in and saves me. All right, here goes nothing. There. Drop the front end on the ground. Let's see what it looks like. Holy shit. It's on the ground. So come on back here. So we had to take it off the rotisserie to get it back on the ground. So we got the jack stands underneath it. It took 3 or 4 tries of taking the front end down a little bit, taking the back end down a little bit, back and forth until we finally got on the ground and got this thing out of the way. But there it is. It's actually sitting on its own suspension for the first time. And how's the tire fitting over here, Garrett? Is the
Yeah, it looks like it's...
Is it rubbing? It's not rubbing there. And I've actually got, oh, you know what? Come on over here.
There's a little bit in the back.
Right there. It's definitely gonna rub there. It's a closer look at the back end here. Pretty good gap going right there until you get back there and it's touching the tire. So we're gonna have to make some adjustments. What's up, everybody? It is the end of my day here, Tuesday, November 23rd, and I'm feeling pretty good. Just got back from dinner with a beautiful lady, and I'm pretty happy right now. The car is sitting on the ground for the first time ever since I've owned it. And we have some adjustments to make, but overall it's progress. It's a step forward, and I'm actually excited about the fact that the wheel spacer is a little too wide. I'm going to bring it back in, and what I'm going to try to find is a wheel spacer that's, first of all, billet construction. These are billet aluminum, but I'm going to find some billet aluminum spacers that are maybe 3/4 of an inch thick, and I'm going to just completely lose the idea of the, dual pattern where one of the lugs, holds the spacer to the axle or to the rotor, and the other set of studs holds the wheel to that, which makes the whole thing lug-centric, and it puts all the strain and the torsion on the lugs themselves. I want to find a hub-centric spacer that's 3/4 of an inch thick, and just get longer wheel studs and put those in the axles, and maybe ARP has some stronger ones, and they'll be a little bit longer, and they'll just go right through the spacer, which will be hub-centric, so that will take some of the load off the spacer, and get the thing moved in about 1/4 of an inch, and I think we're there. Why did this happen? Well, a few reasons. I didn't have a car, I didn't have a rear end, I didn't have wheels to sit here and measure. Sort of, yes. So all this stuff was ordered a long time ago, and I was guessing at it. I went by TCI's measurements. They told me that they had a car with their rear end and they had the wheel tubs on it, and they went with a particular back spacing. And when I called Weld, I said, I really like these wheels. How close can we get to these specs? And they said, well, we only make them these offsets. And so I came within a half inch of the TCI spec. And then when I got the wheels, I stepped under the car and I took another measurement, and I said, well, here's what I need. And TCI still said, well, our rear end housing is different than that. So not only is the wheel offset different, but the rear end housing dimension is different than what I wanted. So that's why we came up with a discrepancy here. But the good news is I'm going to get it figured out, and I'm going to come up with a solution that is more secure and more sound. But I just can't get past the fact that I'm just elated right now and looking at a car. Also, I want to give a shout out to Brian Mcgee, is a guy who I found through one of my Facebook forums for Novas. And he messaged me a while back and saw that my build was progressing along, and he reached out and said, hey man, I love what you're doing with the car. I know that you're going to run into a situation where you're going to need some original parts, because you're not going to be able to find everything in the aftermarket world, which, you know, that would have been nice to have completely brand new everything on the car. But the way it's shaping up, I ordered a brake pedal assembly from him, a stock brake pedal assembly, a stock steering column support mount that goes under the dash. So that's going to correct all those under the dash issues and the master cylinder wobbliness and all that stuff. Also, my door hardware. There's a ton of door hardware that you just can't get in the aftermarket. So all of the internal guts for the window channels, the rods that connect the door latch mechanism to the latch back here, guide channels, stopper plates that limit the travel up and down of the window glass, the A-frame for the vent window, lot of stuff. Also, I originally planned to lose or just completely delete the top molding, the stainless steel trim that goes on top of the door, and just leave it body color. But he pointed out to me that that trim is also essential in retaining the window fuzzies that prevent the window from rattling in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the trim and take it all the way around the window glass here in the roof line. You can, to my knowledge, get the drip rail stainless trim that goes around here and comes down to this corner, but then it stops there, and that's where you got to get original trim for here. And I think maybe this front A-pillar trim, you cannot find that also in aftermarket stuff. So I had to buckle up and go ahead and buy some used stuff, and it'll probably require sandblasting, refinishing, repolishing, who knows what, re-chrome plating, I'm not sure. But I got a bunch of stuff from him coming in the mail. And yeah, that's going to conclude episode 11. My next steps for the car. I'm trying to decide what to do about the front sheet metal. Real Deal Steel has not been able to give me an ETA on the arrival of my front fenders and hood bumpers, which, by the way, I ordered back in July when I placed the order for the body. For some strange reason, they did not order my front sheet metal at that time, and they waited until, well, the car was almost done. And so now I have no ETA on that stuff, and I'm looking at it as maybe a blessing in disguise, because maybe the right thing to do now is get some OEM sheet metal. Cannot find any NOS panels, but some of you guys out there in the Nova forums, if you got a good set of front fenders for a 67, I'm in the market for those. I'm also shopping around to find out what is the best aftermarket cowl induction hood. I want to do a 2-inch cowl hood. I'd like to stay all steel with it. I've been told that the AMD products are maybe the best ones, but if you guys have advice out there, I'm all ears. I would consider a fiberglass or a carbon fiber cowl hood, but really I'd like to keep the entire thing all steel. My buddy Al's going to come over tomorrow, and I think we're going to get out some of the window glass and do a test fit to see how it's lining up with the channel here. I got some of those, well, they're right here. Well, can I get to them, though? I got some of these, here they are. These little suction cup devices here to put them on the window glass. I got a pair of these so we can hopefully get a good grip on the glass, pick it up and set it in there and see what that's looking like. I got a little third brake light here I thought was pretty trick, and I'm going to set that into place somewhere in there. I'm going to start looking into audio components, probably a 6x9 style speaker, a pair of those in the back. I'm going to build a custom enclosure for subwoofers in the trunk. I've already got my kick panels that have speakers in them for down there. And then I'm going to get a tweeter component and put it up somewhere higher. Maybe mold those into the upper portion of the kick panel. I will get the tilt column in place once the brackets arrive and the brake pedal. At some point, I'm going to have to start fabricating a console for the center. I've got the low car shifter, and it's one of these that has the electronic sports shift mode on it, so it's got the full manual park through drive, and then I guess you kick it over a notch and it'll do the little tap plus thing, and it works with the Holley Terminator X Max management system. Speaking of Holley, I was on the phone with him today. I placed a big order with him a couple months ago, and I got my intake manifold and the Terminator and all kinds of parts and an oil pan and their front accessory drive system. And they have been just continually pushing things back into back order. And every time they say, well, we're going to get X number of those drive kits in October, that turned into November. And then they get them in, and then I guess there have been other people that have ordered these things as far back as a year. So they're just completely back ordered. Today, I looked on Summit, and I ended up finding the right components there. So I'm just going to get them through Summit. And I also want to give a shout out to Jim over at Holley. He actually steered me away from a wrong part order for my fuel injectors. I guess I got the low impedance ones, and they're supposed to be high impedance. So he set me up with the right part numbers for the injectors and the Terminator X Max. And as it turns out, the new part number is actually less back ordered than the previous one. So a blessing in disguise. So thank you, Jim at Holley. And what else? My plan is to keep building the car as far as I can. And then what's going to ultimately happen is once I get the entire thing fitting the way I want it, trunk lid, hinges, glass, basic body work, all my welding stuff done and mechanical work done, I'm going to tear it back apart. And I think I may take up an offer from Mitch Lanzini, who reached out to me through Facebook, and take this thing down to Mitch in Huntington Beach. Mitch, if you're still willing to do this and help me out, Mitch said that he would be happy to double team on this thing with me, and we could maybe jump on the body work and bring a couple guys in and knock this thing out in a weekend. So it's very optimistic. I hope that that's still an offer. Maybe he was not thinking clearly when he said that. What else? So we'll build the console. The car is going to get the full Dynamat treatment, which it's been patiently waiting over here in these cardboard boxes. Battery in the trunk, the ice water tank back here for the air-to-water intercooler. As I mentioned in my first episode, the car is going to get an LS3 power plant. It's an all-aluminum Chevrolet block, racing head service, basically stock rectangular port heads. I'm going to get the whole assembly balanced and blueprinted, put it together myself. I've got a 4L80E transmission being built by Jake's Transmission, which is also probably 2 months away. I'm going to get that stuff here, get it in the car, see what we have to do with this transmission tunnel, and if I have to move my gas pedal over, then so be it. For the most part, I would say I'm really happy with the TCI suspension. A couple things that didn't go together quite easily, and I had to drill out some holes, and the instructions were very vague in some places, but overall I'm happy. Also, I'll take you to a little clip of yesterday. I welded up the crossmember brackets for the coilover shocks. I didn't like the way they just bolted in without that secondary bracket, so I went ahead and welded them up into the frame rails. And what else can I tell you? That's it. I think my brain is shot. I've had a couple of martinis. I'm going to call it a night. Excuse me. Okay. Everybody take care. Have a good day, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. And I will check with you again soon for episode 12. In the meantime, take care. Please subscribe to my channel. And give me a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. Take care.